Listen, anytime, any place, anywhere, I'll fight you in your back garden. Like a dumb Klitschko, I'll beat you, you bum. You're a boss.
I want to unify. Is he up for the challenge? Like I said, I declare war. You know, this is not a battle, this is war because I was born in this.
Why am I sitting there like a spare dick in a way? While you are sitting in your mum's spare rooms, just tickling your bollocks.
Come and see me, baby. No more hiding, no more ducking, no more dodging, no more excuses. Let's make the fight happen. Let's see who's the best. I know I'm the best. Are you up for the test?
I'm through. Hey, put somebody else up and give me an interview. What are you talking about? You never give me a fair shake. HBO needs to fire you. You don't know shit about boxing. You ain't shit. You're not shit. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Negative. I'm good. I beat Polly. I left with his belt and his girl.
Fucking was too fast. But it wasn't so much about, it was just that he was so fucking fast. Fast.
Amazingly fast.
Fucking amazingly fast. I was like, I thought Freddie was in there fucking hitting me too. So.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
Yes. What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show live on YouTube, obviously podcast form, iTunes, Spotify, radio, etc. I'm Matt, the hipster hunter, riding solo dolo. No Rob, no Phil. They're off on vacation or something. Maybe work. Who cares? In my mind, in my story, guys, they're on vacation. Not, obviously applying themselves to MCR. Again, in my story. I know Rob's going to be sending me a text any minute now with some snarky comment, but digressing from that, obviously we're going to talk all things boxing today, review all of the weekend's action, which was actually quite a bit, and some memorable action on top of it. Definitely a lot to delve in just with the fights this weekend, plus Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman, finally official for that July 20th pay-per-view, Fox pay-per-view, to even add to it. Going to be interesting to see sort of the promotion behind that one, especially after what we saw, the Spence Garcia promotion, what that was able to achieve for that fight. And now I think we have probably a better fight, a bigger fight in a sense. And I mean, we have so much more to get to. There's a lot of low-tiny topics to get to, like Tyson Fury, Thomas Schwartz being UK pay-per-view. Good times. But let's get into the fights this weekend. Call in 323-870-4051. Press 1 to get in the queue. International callers, Skype, Mixed Combat Radio. Add us there, and I can, or you can just call in. It's not that big a deal. Whichever one. But let's get to the Hurd Williams fight, which obviously was, I would say, the marquee fight of the weekend. Not only because of the way it turned out to be a potential fight of the year contender, an upset of the year contender, with Williams beating Jarrett Hurd via unanimous decision, but the fight itself just seemed to have more eyeballs, more attention on it than anything else. Even like the UFC pay-per-view, to be honest. Like, this seemed to have a little bit more of a just more eyeballs on top of it. Maybe that's due to obviously the UFC being pay-per-view, the ESPN card being rematches that are predominantly hardcore rematches, but on top of that, rematches that even the hardcore didn't want. So this fight seemed to take sort of the centerpiece of attention when it came to combat sports this weekend, and it definitely lived up to expectation. Not only was the main event great, but even the undercard was pretty good. Matt Korbov and Amanda Aline fought to a majority draw. It was originally announced on the telecast a majority decision, but somebody counted up 10s and 9s wrong. It happens. Math is hard. But that fight was really fun. I thought Aline sort of come back in the second half of that fight to sort of close the gap and really apply a lot of successful pressure on Matt Korbov was quite impressive. That was, again, a good tactical fight. And then we had Mario Barros getting a really quick knockout finish in the second round against Juan Velasquez. So that was nice that we got to sort of get through the undercard and rather entertaining and fast-paced style. And then we had Hurd Williams, and that turned out to be, like I said, a Fight of the Year contender. Jarrett Hurd, I would say, was really struggling in this fight to do everything he does best: apply pressure, bully his opponents around just via the physicality of the fight. On top of that, his power just wasn't there. He never really seemed to hurt J-Rock in any significant way. There maybe a couple times he was able to, frustrate, maybe push J-Rock back, obviously because it was a back and forth affair. But I at no point would I say did Hurd hurt Williams, and that was shocking. And in fact, we got the exact opposite. Williams knocking down Hurd, I think it was in the second round, and hurting him several times throughout the fight, actually. It was just an impressive performance from Williams, because not only was he able to match and then beat Hurd in those specific categories I just mentioned, aggressiveness, physicality, all those, power, but on top of that, we saw a display of boxing ability from Julian Williams that I think hardcores always wished was there, but I don't think we ever really saw, to be honest. We finally did see it. On top of that, I think the addition to Bradman Edwards, Stephen Edwards, I think is his name, right? The trainer. I think that was a fantastic addition for Julian Williams. You just see the sort of the leaps and bounds of improvements he's had, not only in his sort of boxing ability, like I mentioned, his footwork, his head movement, his jab was better than ever before, but his confidence was there, more so than his sort of comeback fight since the Charlo fight. We saw, I think Williams rose to the occasion here. It was amazing. Like Gary in the chat saying Bradman put together an awesome game plan. He did. They just knew, well, one, they drilled the head movement and Williams picking off angles from Hurd, who would always sort of square up, and they just kept to that. They said, look, you're going to get caught here and there, weather the storm, and keep ducking under these shots, keep setting up these off angles, and you're going to land combinations. You're going to land clean shots. You guys saying, hey, Matt, Dan Ray fought the fight, Hurd 114, 113. I know I saw that. That was crazy. Hey, but to be fair, I've put in some bad scorecards before too, so it does happen occasionally. But that was notably bad. Digressing though, Julian Williams, I mean, he could go anywhere here, to be honest. This was one of those performances where our perception of him, I think, has to now change. Right? I will solely put me in the crosshairs here. I did not think much of J-Rock before the Charlo fight and after the Charlo fight. Just being honest. I thought he was a easy top 10 competitor, probably top 5 at times. But I never thought he had that it factor in terms of ability. Maybe not star power, not in terms of charisma, but that just it factor when it comes to boxing ability. He showed us that on Saturday night. And that was something that, again, changes the perception of him, at least to me. I think to a large range of people in the boxing community also, though. They have that same perception change when it comes to J-Rock. No one thought he was that good of a boxer. No one thought he could hustle Hurd. That he could brawl him in a way. No one thought that. Like, even if you thought Williams had a shot here, I don't think you ever thought he could out-muscle Hurd around the ring like he did. Like, that was entirely shocking to me. What's next? Obviously, Hurd wants a rematch. I probably wouldn't go that route, to be honest. I think this Harrison-Charlo rematch could end up being a really bad move. Two guys. I mean, Williams and Harrison, I think, are great sort of parallels of each other right now and what they've both accomplished within the 6 months of each other in the same division. They're the two guys that have been underrated blue-collar prospects and contenders for years. And I fought a basic who's who of the division. winning some, losing others. And now that we've seen them really, I think, sort of hit these moments, our understanding of this division now has to change. It just does. It's a much deeper division than what we once thought. I think everyone thought Charlo, Hurd were the top two. You had a deep divide, and then Munguia, and then a deep divide to everyone else. That's obviously just not true. It just isn't. And what's next for Williams if the Hurd fight isn't there? God, who knows? I mean, he could fight anyone right now. You might even want to wait. If the Hurd fight does happen, then obviously there's a rematch clause. So he has to take the rematch. However, if that's not on the table, I would probably advise him, hey, that was a hard fucking fight. Maybe take the months off. Wait for, was it next month is Harrison Charlo? Or is it the end of this month? Wait for that and then fight the winner in October. Something like that on Fox, in the start of the NFL season. And that makes the most sense, to be honest. But if you make the Hurd rematch, I still think that's a great fight. But if I was advising both parties here, I would not push for this rematch right now. Just like I probably wouldn't push for the Harrison Charlo rematch. But that's a side topic. The rest of this card was not available to us as consumers. I was really upset about that. The Stephen Fulton fight we didn't see, and he was able to beat Paulus and Buddha for a sanctioning body's belt. That isn't one of the big four, so I'm not going to mention it. He talked about fighting Guillermo Rigondeaux next. Love that fight. If that happens next, I'm all for it. It's in-house. Alexandra Marine, 17-0 prospect, defeated Luis Concepcion. That's a fantastic fight. We didn't get to see it. Sucks. PBC, please fix this really easy issue. Just in-house stream it if you have to. It's not that hard. And Fox has FS1. It has FS2. This is not impossible here, guys. Figure it out. Moving on, though. Let's get to this top-ranked card, which actually, like I said, turned out to be far more entertaining than what I previously not what I previously thought. I always said this card was going to be entertaining. There's no way we get Berchelt Vargas in a bad fight. There's no way we get Emmanuel Navarre and Isaac Dogbe in a rematch in a bad fight. However, it clearly put the two B-sides out of title contention foreseeably forever, right? I don't think Dogbe ever comes back from this. I'm just being honest. Same with Vargas. Vargas, though, is much more of an obvious he's not coming back from this because of just his age, his wear and tear. Dogbe still has time on his side. He's still a relatively young guy, but the damage he sustained in both the Navarre's fight, not both, but the Jesse Madaleno fight is significant. On top of that, we have clearly seen the limitations of his game. We have clearly seen that he, A, doesn't have a jab. Just does not have one at all. I could probably remember the amount of times he threw a jab on one hand in this fight. It was, and they were pawing jabs. They weren't anything that was significant. It was a lazy attempt to get on the inside. It was just bad. It was just a really bad game plan, bad fight from Isaac Dogbe, to be honest. His entire game is predicated on the need to be on the inside and going hook for hook with his opponent. If he cannot do that, on top of that, if he cannot hurt you when he does that, he loses. His footwork isn't there. His head movement isn't there. He doesn't have any setup shots at all for what he wants to do, which is throw up really hard hooks. That's what he is now. And like I've said, he has taken far, far too much damage at a very early age. Speaking of instant rematches that should not have happened, this is what I talk about. This is what I'm afraid of when we get to a Williams Hurd rematch later this year. Is that nope, a guy needs a break. The brain, your body needs a break from that type of fight. And you go back to back in relatively short order. I mean, I'm trying to remember when the first Dogbe Navarre fight happened. That was end of last year, like November, December, right? So within 6 months, let's say, that's way, way too soon for that type of fight. Like, for honest sake, Canelo Alvarez, the fact that he is looking this good after those 2 Triple G fights is entirely shocking. Right? Like, I think that's why when we talk about how good he is, how good of a chin he is, how durable Canelo is, it's because he went life and death with Triple G twice. And then he made Rocky Fielding look like an absolute amateur. And then he almost did the same with Daniel Jacobs in just a more long, sustained 12-round fashion. Fighters usually don't look that way coming into hard fights off of those type of wars. And maybe that Rocky Fielding fight is an example of why fighters need a tune-up and an easy fight in between tough fights. But digressing from that, let's talk more specifically about this main event, Berchelt Vargas. I have issues with Berchelt going forward. I see limitations to his game. I think Vargas at times was walking him down, was landing really good combinations, but simply his power really wasn't there like it used to be. And on top of that, he's an old man now. You can tell he's fighting like an old man, and he cannot take that volume, that pace of a fight anymore. He's just been in too many wars. And Berchelt, to his credit, just a young guy who can take it. And so he's able to work through all the volume, all the combinations of Francisco Vargas for the 6th round, and eventually finished him. And they stopped it in between the 6th and 7th round. But Berchelt's issues, to get more individual with them, footwork is an issue. I see a distinct lack of lateral movement. Really decent head movement, though. So the foundation for good defense is there. But his footwork is trash. It's really straight lines. If he does use lateral movement, it's purely to reset the action. He cannot fight while going lateral. Like, he cannot work counters and combinations while going laterally with his opponent at all. That's just an issue, I think, with certain guys in this division. And on top of that, him mentioning Lomachenko, I think Lomachenko demolishes him just because of the abhorrent footwork of Miguel Berchelt. But he is a hard hitter, really good fundamentals when it comes to his boxing ability, good jab, good power. Like I said, good head movement. But there's a lot of roughness around this diamond that he could be. And I think even like Tevin Farmer, Gervonta Davis fights right now would be maybe too much. I think a Iota or Herring fight, he beats those guys, but those are tough fights for him. I really don't, just from a technical perspective, I don't see Berchelt as this dominant guy as some think. I think he's obviously one of the top 3 guys in the division, but I see distinct technical flaws with this game that cause me to have some issue here, because everyone else he's in theory should be facing next, even though he probably won't, a la the Oscar Valdez sort of diet, I think are just better technical boxers than him. And he's going to find some big issues there. Gary, I know, you call in, you know the number. Let's move on to the co-main. I kind of talked about it a lot with Dogboy and Navarre. I don't care about Dogboy going forward, to be honest. Not that I shouldn't say I don't care. I find his career to be tragic. And I don't know how he rebounds from this, other than changing camp, moving out, doing something drastic to change up his entire career, because he needs to hit the hard reset button for his career. Otherwise, there's no point in talking about him as a legit title contender anymore, because I think everyone in this division beats him. What's next for Navarre? I mean, obviously we know he's on the sort of the wrong side of the aisle right now with Daniel Rahman and Ray Vargas on DAZN. But God, Bob, find a way to get Navarre against one of those guys. Please. I don't want to see an Oscar Valdez diet, for God's sake. And one undercard, I'm going to mention Michael Fox defeating Vazadin Gabizarov. They were calling him, I think, Fozzy or something like that on the telecast, who is a 2-time medalist in the Olympics, won silver medal in the 2012 London Games, beat Jose Ramirez. top-ranked WBO champion at junior welterweight in those games. Won the gold medal in 2016 in Rio. Defeated one of the Gary Russell brothers in that process, and he got completely found out here against Michael Fox. I shouldn't say that. This is one of those fights where Fozzy was, 5'6", right? And Michael Fox, let me see how tall this guy is. I want to be accurate here because he's a fucking giant. He is 6'3". Sorry, 6'3" and a half for 140 pounds. And look, the guy knows how to fight tall and how to fight long. And that's always a concern. We have very tall, unusually tall guys in the division. Most of the time, they're awkward and they don't know how to fight long. They don't have to fight as tall, rangy, jabbers in a sense. Michael Fox did. And Fazadine had no idea how to really get beyond that jab and really struggled. Got hurt multiple times, but it was a good technical fight. If you want to go and check out Thundercard, that fight, the Carlos Castro fight, was decent as well. But yeah, Michael Fox as a 6'3" and a half junior welterweight, holy shit. And just beating a 2-time Olympic medalist, even though he was relatively early in his career. I've seen enough from Michael Fox to make me curious about what he can do next, especially since his last fight was against another, I think, Igor Klimas, heralded amateur in Shojin Ugashev, or was it Urgashev? And that was a fun back and forth fight. So we might have some really good underrated talent coming up at 140 pounds right now that we need to keep a maybe closer eye on. But anyways, digressing from that, moving on. Last sort of fight card I'll mention, only because I haven't seen it, 'cause I think they took the live stream down online, was Murata Methylane versus Masayuki Koreda for the IBF World Flyweight title. Charlie Edwards has now called out Moretti, and I think this is, first off, I haven't seen the fight. I heard it's a good fight. I heard that Moretti kind of won it decisively. But that Edwards fight, I'm all for that. So give me that straight to the veins, please. Before we jump to the other topics, I want to briefly just give our prayers and condolences to Harold Letterman and Burt Cooper, who both passed away this last weekend. Both iconic names in the sport. Both have left a really significant legacy in the sport that I'm just not going to do justice talking about. But rest in peace to Harold Letterman. Rest in peace to Burt Cooper. Our condolences and prayers to their families in this time of grieving and mourning. Harold Letterman, I mean, for those that don't know, listen to the show for a long time, I've done an impersonation of him for quite a bit. So this sucks. I've always kind of made jokes, but Harold Letterman's an awesome guy. I've met him once, and he was fantastic. And on top of that, you talk to anyone that's been around him, and just watch interviews of him. The guy was one of the happiest people in the sport. And that's rare in this game. This game, in this industry, breeds cynicism. And Harold Letterman was a guy that was the exact antithesis of that. Of how the business and the industry of boxing can sort of turn people into a certain way. And Burt Cooper, for those that don't know his career, I definitely implore everyone to go check out this article by Tris Dixon, really good writer, called The Last Action Hero on Boxing Scene. Fantastic piece. Go read it. I will, the link, I'm going to copy and paste the link right now in the chat for those that want to read it after the show. Fantastic stuff. And again, I'm just not going to do it justice like that article will, especially in long form. So go read it. But moving on, the best way we can, just because we have to. Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman, official July 20th on pay-per-view, Fox pay-per-view. There will be a Caleb Plant versus Mike Lee fight on regular Fox, main Fox, as the lead-in to the pay-per-view telecast. I think that's a fantastic pairing and idea. Give Caleb Plant that exposure. He did fantastic numbers on FS1. That was pretty shocking, especially when we have, let's say, Caleb Plant, Jose Escategi did almost 1 million viewers average, like 900-something thousand, I want to say, average on FS1. And then like Lamont Peterson, Sergey Lipinets, I would say two guys that have a little more name value, or at least name awareness maybe with fans. Maybe that's a stretch nowadays, but hey, in hindsight, that's what I thought. They only did like 200,000 viewers on FS1. So, hey, I who knows how big Caleb Plant is in terms of star power, in terms of all of a sudden catching some momentum and wave. That does happen for fighters all of a sudden. And putting him on Fox. Well, Zulu, you know you can call in. Zulu, if you can't call in, let me know, and I'll definitely get to that point later on in the show. But I think Pacquiao, Thurman, like I said, we've known this for a while. Great fight. I'm really intrigued by how it goes, especially since we have some question marks about both guys, in a sense, in 2019. This fight's going to answer a lot of those questions. And the winner of it fights the winner of Spence Porter. So let's be honest, guys. This little mini PBC welterweight tournament is amazing. So I'm all in favor of it. And this pay-per-view is honestly the one pay-per-view that we can all probably agree is worth the money. So, yeah, amazing. Oh, yeah. Banana, thank you for reminding me about that. I'll get to that. Thank you. Totally forgot about that. Let me get the card up really fast. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just pull it up. Banana reminding me about Jordan Gill losing in dramatic fashion. I think this one, Friday? Or was this? Yeah, it was Friday, I want to say, right? Yes. On the DAZN card. Look, wow. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I know Rob's somewhere getting sad all of a sudden, and I just can't do that to my guy. You know, like that. I understand when you have a prospect you love and they lose. It is heartbreaking. But Jordan Gill just getting outworked, outmuscled, beat up versus Enrique Tinoco. That was illuminating. Like that. Jordan Gill, his hype train got a little bit carried away there. Fu, Rob, people in the chat. That was a really bad performance. I know he's come out and said like he was, I think, sick or something beforehand. Gus, I did talk about it, by the way. I did talk about Mario Barrios. But god damn. Whew. Tinoco, damn, that was a impressive performance. And shout out to Coldwell for calling off the fight in between rounds. I think that was a smart thing to do. And also shout out to Francisco Vargas trainer, who also called off the fight in between rounds relatively early as well. I think that was the smart thing to do overall. But moving on, for the sake of time, I do want to get to callers. Call in 323-870-4051. By the way, everyone, Tyson Fury, Tom Schwartz, UK pay-per-view at 5 a.m. or whatever. Get hyped. That's just fantastic. I wish Rob was here to rant about it more. I'm not going to because we've had our own share of really bad pay-per-view. Let's be honest. But I want to address this.
I think that ultimately,
hold on, Bobby. This was a funny clip I saw because obviously, for those who don't know, the Tyson Fury press conference was today, yesterday, I forget. And Gary Sands Block Talk working, I believe so. Gary, and the 501 number, press 1 if you want to get in the queue. But what was I going to say? Well, anyways, the Tyson Fury press conference was today. Bob Arum was there, And obviously, we're going to ask him about the Anthony Joshua Andy Ruiz fight. And I just want to compare and contrast these two clips. And luckily, shout out to Master Fu 5 at Master Fu 5 on Twitter, Boxing Center. He's in the chat occasionally as well. Great guy. He was able to sort of clip these clips together, or maybe it was somebody else, and then he just shared it. But it was a old interview with Bob Arum talking about Andy Ruiz before the Joseph Parker fight, and now a clip of him talking about the the Andy Ruiz Anthony Joshua fight at the Tyson Fury press conference. And it is, Gary's going to love this, and it is on point for promoters.
I think is a terrific heavyweight, and I think that ultimately, if Andy beats Parker, a fight between Joshua and Andy could be huge.
Miller.
And he had to get another opponent, but you don't pick some fat guy who has, all you're going to see when he gets in the ring is his stomach jiggling. Really, he's a nice boy, Andy. But that isn't a fight that's going to really sell in the United States.
Well, Bob, tell us how you really feel there. The best part is Tyson Fury's face, honestly. I don't have some big, deep rant about Bob Arum being a hypocrite and all that, because he is. Like, the dude has a public record that goes back to the 1960s. We know that. This is common knowledge. And guess what? Every promoter is a hypocrite and they contradict themselves. So this is nothing new. But the look on Tyson Fury's face when Bob Arum's going to his hating on fat guys rant, you can tell Tyson's like, bro, I was literally like 400 pounds. You really want to take this line? And plus, Tyson Fury's not the most fit guy either. So it was awkward. It was extremely awkward. I found that part hilarious, I will say. Andy Ruiz came out and said, like, oh, Bob Arum's got jokes today. Come on, Andy. You can do something better than that. But anyways, Bob Arum continued to be, as usual, Bob Arum-like. Staying on point, though, Bob Arum, per Michael Benson, Bob Arum told him that his plan for the lightweight division is Richard Comey versus Ray Beltran in June, which, whatever. I'm okay with it. I'll deal with it. Lopez versus Nakatini versus in July for the IBF final eliminator. Lomachenko versus Campbell in the autumn, which I would assume would be like October-ish at the latest. Maybe November. Comey versus Beltran, winner versus Lopez versus Nakatini, winner in the winter, so like December, November, and then an early 2020 undisputed fight. It makes sense, right, guys? I mean, I think I have no real issue with this. Yes, it's quote-unquote marination, but hey, I mean, PBC does this. Everyone does this, so it is what it is. PBC was planning the Hurd Charlo fight. Shit happens. So God knows if, shit happens is going to happen here. But I'm okay with, the unspoken of tournaments as long as they're still against, in a sense, quality opposition. And most of these fights are still good fights. So I'm predominantly okay with Bob Arum's plan for the lightweight division because it looks like he's about to try to monopolize it. And to be honest, he most likely is going to be successful in it, unless Campbell comes out here with a shocking performance. And also, Comey. Like, Comey not only has to beat Beltran, but he has to beat Beltran, Lopez, and Lomachenko. And then maybe, because I don't know what his exact network ties are or promoter ties are, the way I've always viewed it, or it's been told to me, is that he's sort of a network free agent and he's sort of on loan in a sense from PBC to have these fights, and then he can go back. So, but that's a long road and that's a dangerous road for Richard Comey. So it looks like Bob Arum's going to have his way and monopolize the lightweight division under Lomachenko or Lopez or someone else. But anyways, digressing. Next topic of the day, Josh Kelly finally has an opponent named for that Joshua Ruiz card, and it's Ray Robertson. And I gotta say, I like this fight. Ray Robertson's one of those guys that he's not the best opponent, but he's a guy that's going to make you look bad. He's going to play spoiler. He's a very awkward, tall southpaw. And plus, for us in the U.S., like we've seen him on Showbox. We've seen him on cards quite a bit, I would say. We've seen him on PBC cards. I think we've seen him on like Fox cards even. So we've seen him around. And I think that's a good barometer for sort of Josh Kelly's U.S. debut on this Joshua Ruiz card. I'm all in favor of this matchup. Makes complete sense for me, and I still think it's a step up in competition level. Moving on, it wouldn't be a MCR show and a show where we break down boxing news without Mike Coppinger coming in and saying sources. Michael Collin will meet Vladimir Nikitin on August 3rd in Belfast in a rematch of their controversial bout in the 2016 Olympic Games. The 10-round featherweight bout will be streamed on ESPN Plus and be staged outdoors at Falls Park in Northern Ireland. All in favor of this fight. Makes complete sense. Built-in rivalry, built-in grudge match, and it's in Colin's hometown. Yeah, it's game. Game, set, match for that one. But let's go to callers, everyone. Call in 323-870-4051. Skype Mix Combat Radio. Let's check what Blog Talk's looking like. Let's go to Santiago in L.A. Santiago, what's up, man?
Not much. Just here watching Gunslingers, listening to MCR, and just waiting to start the day, door dashing. Obviously, I talked about this in the live fight chat show when we gave our immediate reactions about how I felt about Hurd, the fact that I felt personally that there had been a style change from his fight with Frank Galarza. I don't know if you at all went back to see how he fought against Frank Galarza compared to how he fought, the last 3-4 fights, because definitely you see a guy who looked like he didn't have the basics down, who basically just tried to be the physically bigger, imposing man. And obviously it came back to bite him against a guy who had shown improvement to me since his loss to Charlo, a guy who took advantage of the fact that he was a slow starter, a guy that knew that he liked to be the bigger guy and wasn't afraid to just go in there, balls to the walls, and try to wear you out, and basically took advantage of what he thought his strengths were and used it against him. I like you. I don't want an immediate rematch right away. I feel that right now, in Hurd's best interest, having had the fights he's had with Williams, with Lara, and also, just look back at how he was losing the fight against Tony Harrison prior to the knockout, too. He was being outboxed. Mm-hmm. Really, the only reason that I would say Hurd beat Harrison was because what was the one thing that we always bitched about with Harrison is cardio. He started slowing down, and he started being able to get time by Hurd. Mm-hmm. So I think that in Hurd's best interest, he needs to go back to the drawing board, review the way that he's been fighting his last couple fights compared to how he was when he first burst onto the scene for me with Frank Galarza, and refine his basics, refine his ability to take advantage of being the bigger guy, not just physically, but aesthetically. Like he's got a good reach, he's got good height for him. He needs to try and figure out the times where he can be the physical guy, but also figure out the times where he needs to be the boxer and try to maybe, fight the mid-range game better instead of just trying to be the mauler, because that can only take you so far at this point, and we saw that last night. Co-main event, Mario Barrios, saw him do his thing. I believe it was a last-minute replacement. I'm not entirely sure, but he looked good. A vicious body shot, straight right to the body to put him down and get an easy win. Opening bout, Matt Korobov, Emmanuel Lim. Very excited. Look forward to that fight, considering what these guys brought to each other. And Korobov looked good, but you could easily see that as the fight wore on, had it been, for me at least, had it been a 12-round fight, it could have easily been a justifiable draw. I honestly thought Korobov won and the scores reflected that. Then they apparently sucked at doing math. Here I am keeping score for myself and two other well-to-do guys on the show, and these guys can't even keep track of their own scores by themselves. So it's a shame that it had to go that way. I don't know if you would be in favor of a rematch right away, or if they should just look at other avenues for themselves. But that's my takeaway from that for that card. The ESPN card, battle of rematches with the co and the main event. It's a shame because most of us were very hyped on Dog Bay too. I know you were, especially when we had the whole Nihao and shit and everything. We just got jacked. You talked about like him giving a sermon when he first won the title and everything, and it's just kind of like, damn, man, these guys got it in rough. Dog Bay went straight back to Navarrete, and Navarrete just basically cemented himself as being one of the guys at 122 right now. And Vargas, I knew he was going to lose this fight. He's had so much wear and tear. I think the last time I saw him fight, he was fighting at 140, I think. And so when they made the rematch, kudos to them getting the rematch, but I knew Berchelt was going to win. And the fact that Noel Diaz stopped it after the end of the sixth round, I think he doesn't have it anymore. He's had too many wars, too soon, too close to each other. And Berchelt's good. Obviously, I still feel that he could give some of these guys good work at 130, but I definitely think that against a guy like Loma, he's going to style on him because Loma's a guy who's got basics of the basics down pat. If you don't know how to fight laterally, he knows how to fight laterally and add a level to it. If he's trying to fight going backwards, he knows how to fight backwards and add a level to that. So right now, I don't see any indication to see that he could upset Lomachenko personally. I know Gary thinks otherwise.
What
but
about
that's my opinion on that.
Well, I know Gary. He has this opinion that he's going to move up a division and beat Lomachenko. Whatever, Gary. We'll get to that in a second. But Santiago, you're more reasonable. How do you see even a Gervonta Davis or Tevin Farmer fight going for Berchelt? I think Berchelt has some issues with those guys.
I think it's a much closer fight now, for sure. Like you said, he doesn't look like a guy who knows how to fight laterally.
We haven't seen any improvement from him.
Issue.
We haven't seen any improvement from him since he beat Vargas.
I wouldn't say so. I would say that he's pretty much just been, rinse and repeating his style and his performances thus far. I think he gives both guys good fights, but definitely I think that, especially for a guy like Davis, who we're currently on about taking featherweights coming up to 130 and shit, the time is now for him, if he wants to have a name on his record and shut the people up that are giving him shit about this, make the Berchelt fight. Right now, I think he could do it. He may not be the most nimble guy, but definitely I think he has what it takes to give a guy who does not know how to fight laterally issues, and he could do to him what he did to Jose Pedraza.
I largely agree with you.
Yeah, man. And then excited for the Pacquiao Thurman fight for sure. I actually might go see that one live. I have a friend that lives up there in Vegas, and so I might ask her to see, once the tickets go on sale, if she could score me some tickets, maybe stay with her. That way I don't have to worry about a hotel, and I could just enjoy myself a really, really, really nice night in Vegas, because I also want to go there to support my boy Caleb Plant, man. Very excited to see him, on the undercard too, and
but quickly,
bout, so
he won't be on that card in a sense. So it's going to be like what they did with the Donna Stevenson Vajdic fight, and I forget was that the Manny Pacquiao Broner card, where it was a dual site location, and
you said Stevenson Vosdick, right?
Yes. What was that? That was a
no. That was the same night as Wilder Fury.
Wilder Fury. Thank you. It's gonna be like that. I think the Caleb Plant fight is gonna be in Tennessee. I think they're giving him a hometown fight. I think they're putting Nashville. And the Pacquiao Thurman fight's in Vegas, I believe.
Oh, that's a damn shame, but that's why we've got technology. Either way, though, I think it's a fight worth traveling out. I've only ever seen one fight in Vegas, and that's the one where I won the pie bet against you. So it should be fun. It should be fun. I'll probably consider it. It's in July, so I've got time to save up the money for it. I think it's going to be a good fight. And definitely going to be a fight where, this is where Pacquiao either leaves on top or leaves, basically. And for Thurman, this is a fight where he basically tries to cement himself as one of the guys at 147. And also, it'll be nice to know that regardless of how this is,
By the way, I'm wrong. Caleb Plant is on that card. I was wrong. I think that was like an idea they had. That was never official. The official plan is Plant Mike Lee on that card. Thank you, Arthur, in the chat.
These are the hips of being wrong, huh?
Hey, it happens all the time, guys. Like, and people act like I'm this like know-it-all, but like I say I'm wrong on literally every show. I'm okay with saying that. Just not with Gary.
And that's what makes. Hey, well, that's what makes you good, dude. That's what makes you good, and that's why we love you. But thank you for making that choice a lot easier to make now.
Yes.
And again, it's gonna be good. I look forward to it. And that's pretty much all I really do have to say regarding any of these topics. If you have any other specific questions regarding the PBC card, the ESPN card, any of the news that you talked about, feel free to shoot. Otherwise, that's my call. RIP to Harold Letterman and Bert Cooper. Really, looking at a guy like Harold Letterman was one of the reasons and one of the influences in how I choose to score fights, just not just for the show, but for myself too. So it's a shame to see him go. And to be honest, I never thought he was going to die. He was so old, I didn't think death could get him. So I hope he's enjoying himself up with the other legends of the sport and that he was able to go easy at least. So RIP to these two guys, a warrior and a man who influences the way that I score fights.
Agreed. Thank you, Santiago, for the call. Really nice words there. Arthur in the chat saying, I wonder how the undercard will shape and the price point since there'll be a one fight on pay-per-view. I don't think Arthur's going to be a one fight on pay-per-view. I think what they're going to do is have probably they're going to find two prospects. So, God, I'm trying to think of who would fit in the schedule right now. And that is kind of like a Fox entity. I don't know. But I would assume what they would do is maybe have like a 5 or 4 fight, maybe 3 fight undercard on Fox and FS1. And that that will end with the Caleb Plant Mike Lee fight, and the pay-per-view would have at least a 3-card telecast. A 3-fight telecast. It has to have at least 2 fights in the undercard of that pay-per-view. Otherwise, $75 for one fight, that's insane. That's, I think, never, I'm not going to say never been done before, but in my memory, never been done before. So, Arthur, I think they're going to figure it out that way. Like, the Caleb Plant fights, actually, if you're going to be there live, it's going to be midway in the card, more so. Or at least not the true co-main event in terms of the pacing of the card. But digressing, we have the one and only Gary in Dallas calling in. Gary, what up?
What's going on, Matty Millions?
What up, man?
I got a lot of things to say today. Got a lot of things. So this is let's start with J-Rock.
Mm-hmm.
That was an amazing performance. Like, if you were to say to me, does J-Rock have any chance of winning? I would have said no. I mean, he may have some moments here and there, Hurd's easy to hit, this and that, but he has 0% chance of winning. And if I had to come up with some kind of blueprint, it would be he has to try to move away from him and circle around him and not engage him. And then he went and fought in the phone booth and beat him. And Breadman said that they wanted to replicate the Shane Mosley versus Antonio Margarito blueprint. And that's kind of what they did.
Yeah.
They had to smother his punches. And, I mean, it went against traditional logic. But, I mean, that was a heck of a performance. I thought it was going to be his funeral. I thought Hurd was going to kill him. And then, I guess it was around the 5th, 6th, 7th round when Hurd started to rally. I said, okay, this is where he breaks him down. I mean, J-Rock had an answer for everything. I had no idea he was capable of that. That was, I would say, just as a performance, the best performance we've seen so far this year.
Oh, like individual performance? Yeah, it probably is.
Individual
Yeah,
performance, yeah.
because not only is it a fight of the year contender, an upset of the year contender, but like you say, it's a complete changing of what we think about J-Rock. We never thought he could do that, and he showed us a lot of style and technique when we never thought that was there.
And how long has J-Rock been with Breadman? Just since the loss?
I think this fight. I want to be honest. I could be wrong about that, guys, but I think I saw that this was the first fight with him.
I just, I thought J-Rock was good. I'm not sure I thought J-Rock even beat Issei Smith. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. No, you're right. No, that fight was controversial. And he looked entirely different that was a different person. Like, that's not J-Rock. Like, that person did not, he has fought entirely different, against character, against type in this fight than he's ever had in his career. Like, this is a unique situation.
Yeah, I was so impressed with him. And I just wonder now, like, did they expose Hurd? That's going to take a really skilled boxer to get inside on Hurd and withstand it. But, like, have they figured out how to fight Hurd now? Because look, I love Hurd, but obviously he's defensively flawed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He doesn't move his head mostly. Is there a blueprint now on how to beat Hurd? Is he beatable now by the top guys at 54?
I don't know. I'll be honest. I think for all of Hurd's biggest fights have been close fights. You know what I mean? Like the Laura fight, close. Austin Trout fight, close. The Harrison fight, close. Like, he's really been in a lot of close, contentious decision fights. He has just been the guy that's just over-muscled everyone. I think it takes a unique type of person to beat Jarrett Hurd. I don't think it exposes him. I think Hurd can still beat a lot of these guys in the division because of his physicality, because of his volume. I think you need a guy that can take that power, take that aggression, but on top of that is a really superior boxer than him. Not only just a better boxer than him, but has specific tools to beat him, like apparently J-Rock has. The ability to take the shots on the inside and then slip under combinations and to get off angle and to set up your own combinations. To do that all within a gunfight, in a sense, is a very hard thing to do. I don't think anyone really in this division, other than Williams, Charlo, and Harrison in a rematch, have that ability. And that's it. And then, even then, I think Hurd can still beat all those guys. Like, it's still close fights. It's still all very 50-50 matchups with all those four guys. But at 160, I think Canelo would dominate him. I think Canelo can do what J-Rock did, but better.
Yeah.
I think, again, I think Jamal will have success with him up there. I think a lot of guys at 160 will be able to deal with the physicality of Hurd more so than what we previously thought, because Williams did. And if you really look back on it, even Laura kind of did, and even Harrison kind of did, and even Trout kind of did. Did we kind of overrate Hurd a little bit? Yes.
Eventually.
Very quickly, Gary. Very quickly, then you can jump in. Did we overrate Hurd? Yes, slightly, but we completely underrated J-Rock. That needs to be stated, and that sort of needs to be at the forefront.
I agree. I thought J-Rock was a little more than an opponent, right? Like, he's going in there to lose Hurd's homecoming fight, right? Like, when you schedule your homecoming, like Texas never schedules Oklahoma for their homecoming. They always schedule Kansas or Kansas State, right? Like, get the easy one for the homecoming. Like, I thought that's what Hurd was doing, even though I don't think he's easy. I just thought he was not capable of anything close to what he handed on Saturday. That was a remarkable performance by J-Rock. I thought that he would 6-7 rounds, Hurd would get rid of him. You're right. Hurd was in all those fights. Harrison, Trout, and Lara. Those were all great fights. But eventually, he broke him down, right? Like,
Yeah.
Eventually, he turned the tide. Lara was able to run out the clock, but, I mean, that's 11 to 12 round. Lara was in a world of trouble. And that's what won him the fight, the knockdown in the 12th and the beating he gave him in the 11th. Trout was outboxing him early, and then Trout stood in with him, and then Hurd broke him. The same thing with Harrison. Like, that's why I picked against Hurd in every one of the separate fights. I picked Harrison, I picked Trout, I picked Lara.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally said, okay, no more. I'm never picking against Hurd again. It doesn't matter that he's flawed.
Agreed.
He'll eventually break you. And then he didn't break Harrison. So I just get every single Hurd fight wrong. I'll never pick one right. I still, and this is hard for me to say because I love the Charlos, I still think he beats Jamel Charlo. I think Charlo beats Harrison in the rematch, and I think if they do that, well, I'm with you. I don't think that Hurd should rush into a rematch with J-Rock.
No, that'd be asking far too much.
I think he should take a little tune-up and then face the winner of the Harrison rematch, the Harrison Jamel Charlo rematch. Face the winner of that next year.
Or if you honestly, I like I said, I think Williams should just wait because the Harrison Charlo fight's in like a couple weeks. It's not that far away. It's their timing is pretty good for them to fight again, to fight the winners. I think Williams should just fight the winner of Charlo Harrison, and maybe the losers fight each other after they both take tune-ups, something. But I think if Charlo goes down again against Harrison, he needs a long road back just from taking punishment in a sense. And same with Hurd. Hurd has taken so much punishment in the last 5 fights. He needs a break. He just does.
Yeah, and he fought twice, within 6 months now since coming back from that shoulder injury,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and again, I didn't think that J-Rock had any chance of winning that fight, but he's also not, J-Rock's not a tune-up, right? So that's not really a guy that you would take for your home field. That's a tough voluntary he chose. So that's why I think Hurd will take the immediate rematch because he's a fighter. And he thinks he can win that fight, and he will take it because he's a fighter. But I don't think he should. I think his advisors and people should be like, listen, we don't need to take that right away. But I do think he will take it. Right? I mean, Hurd's first title defense, he fought Trout, and then he fought Lara.
He wants it, and he's probably going to take it, unless Heyman can convince him otherwise.
Or if Heyman just goes and makes the other fight, makes the Jamel Charlo, Tony Harrison winner against J-Rock, right? They could do that. But for what they said, he had the rematch clause in his contract, so we'll see. We'll see. On the undercard, you said you watched the Stephen Fulton fight?
No, I said I didn't watch it because there was no
Okay.
there was no stream or telecast of it.
Yeah. That kid, I didn't see him fight this fight either, but that kid is really good.
I know, that's why I'm upset.
Early in his career, he beat Josh Greer, like 4 or 5 fights into his career. That kid is really good.
He called out Gamma Rigondeaux after the fight.
Yeah, they have.
I like that.
Boy, I don't know if he's ready for that. I don't know what Rigondeaux's got left either. I guess we'll find out soon. But that guy's good. That guy's really good.
On all 3 judges' scorecard, he won every single round in this fight.
Yeah, I saw he's fought on the when Brandon Figueroa headlined the card against Escondón. Fulton fought on that card.
Yes.
And he fought on Thurman versus José Lopez. He fought on that card too. Like he's been a staple. They've used him on undercards. He's good. I don't know that he can beat any of those guys at 122. Those champions are good, and plus Rigondeaux. But he would be a handful for anyone. That kid is good.
Agreed.
I guess they have him. The PBC has him and Brandon Figueroa. I guess that's a fight they're going to want to make at some point.
And again, Rigondeaux.
Well, boy, who would you like? Yeah, Riggin down too. Yeah, right. They have some talent.
The only problem is
too.
they have no belts in that division right now.
Right. So they can't get those guys a belt. I mean, the champions right now are 22. Roman has 2 of them. Navarrete has
1.
WBO.
Of course. And then Ray Vargas has,
And
I think, Ray Vargas has the WBC, I'm assuming, but that's an assumption.
That division got. I would say Vargas is the weakest link. He's good.
Yeah, Ray Vargas is probably the weakest link, but he's still good. 122 has some really good talent, but none of them are big names. That's the problem. But I think probably Daniel Roman or Navarrete take over that division. One of them.
Or Figueroa. If you got about Figueroa.
I think Figueroa's probably going to move up before he becomes a unified champion, to be honest. He's too big. He's a big guy, man. And to be honest, you telling me Al Heyman's not telling him, yeah, just move up to 126. We have Leo Santa Cruz, Gary Russell Jr., Abner Morris says he's going to make a comeback. We have everyone at the Carl Framptons. No, he just signed to ESPN. Never mind. Who else do you have? You have some people.
Yeah, I mean, those are the big names. But those Gary Russell, I know Gary Russell Jr. never fights. Mm-hmm. Gary Russell Jr. is so incredibly gifted and so incredibly talented. Like, if he fought once every 12 months instead of once every 16 months, like, he'd be a pound-for-pound guy. Gary Russell Jr. is that good. He just doesn't ever fight, which is his choice, right? But, like, I mean, yeah, he would jump at the opportunity to fight him, but, like, I would ease, and I'm Figueroa's biggest fan, obviously. I would not advise him to rush into fighting Gary Russell Jr. That's a tough fight for anybody.
Agreed.
All right, then Mario Barrios. What'd you think, Matt?
I thought he looked really good. I thought he looked probably. I liked his aggression in this fight. That's one thing I've been like wanting from him, is to be a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, I just, good performance. I know platitudes to give him. It was just a good performance against a kind of a good opponent, a decent opponent, especially on short notice. If Santiago is right, that's really impressive. They got
he was scheduled to fight Velasco for weeks now. That was, I mean,
okay,
yeah. And Velasco went 7 rounds or so with Rougarou, with
8 rounds.
Prograis.
Went 8 rounds.
8 rounds.
We got finished in the 8th. You got finished in the 8th, I should say. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, like, it's a good performance. I mean, it was quick, it was impressive. I'm tired of the 143 pounds. I'll be honest. Like, I want him to pick a division. Like, pick 140, pick 147. Whatever it is, because then I can actually get invested into what path you're going to take, because now he's in between the division, in my opinion. I don't like that. But other than that, he looked impressive.
And I've followed him for years now, and his team, and rightfully so, they want to get him a title shot next. With that tournament going on, really the only champion that's going to be available is Ramirez and Hooker. And those are going to be tough to make for promotional reasons, right? What would you think about it? Since he likes to fight at 143, having him fight Broner next to build his name, and then go fight Prograis after that?
I mean, it would be great for Mario Barrios. I don't think it ever happens.
They got to put.
Like, that's great matchmaking in an ideal world, but that's not happening.
They got to put Broner in with someone. And at this point, Broner is not beating anybody of note, right? So why not use his name to build someone else's star? You know what I'm saying? Like, use him to make Barrios a star.
Because I think that Adrian Broner's still, 30 years old? So there's still, like, an investment in him.
He's not old, yeah. He's only, like, 30.
So, like, the Adrian Broner cash machine, like, that's not running out. So, no, they're not going to feed him to Mario Barrios, man. Sorry.
Okay. But who would they have him fight next? You want to do a rematch with Granados? I mean, it's a fun.
Oh,
fight.
you're talking about Broner or Barrios?
Yeah. What do you do next for Broner? I mean, Barrios wants to wait for a title shot. I don't see that happening until the tournament's over.
Let me find. Hold on. Let me look up the rankings at 147 pounds because he's not going back down to 140. Come on, we know that. Let's not kid ourselves here.
Well, he likes to fight at 140.
Is Berto still doing something?
I thought so. I mean, he beat Devin, right? So then he just hasn't. I haven't heard anything from him since.
You're right. I mean, that fight makes perfect sense. Andre Berto, Adrian Broner. Could put that on.
Unfortunately.
No, I mean, and honestly, like that's not a bad fight. I'll be interested in that. Like they're both guys, respectively, in terms of their career. Maybe not in terms of age, but where they're at in their career, they're at the same point. You know, so I'm okay with that. Josito Lopez, he just coming off a loss too. That makes some sense. Who else? Maybe like a Felix. Maybe they bring Felix Diaz out of the Dominican Republic for once. I don't know. Everyone else that would make sense are like prospects, other than like maybe like Robert Guerrero. Like, you know, it's gonna be names that aren't fantastic names, but it's gonna be those type of opponents for Adrian Broner next, in my opinion.
They want
maybe
versus, I think they
best case scenario, Gary, and if you really want to be on best case scenario for you is like Omar Figueroa.
I was just gonna say that they wanted to make that. Well, I think they did make it before Figueroa got the driving charges and everything, and that would be at that point.
But that's not happening.
A year and a half ago, whenever they wanted to make that, I thought it was a great fight. I think Figueroa would beat him down. I don't know. He looked real. Omar, that is, looked real bad in his last fight against John Molina. He looked real. He looked like Brandon Rio. He just looked like slow and like chopping punches. Like ugh. I mean, Figueroa is still like only 29. He's only fought like twice in 5 years, whatever it's been. They got to put it in with someone. They got to it's like sink or swim with him, right?
I think the Berto fight makes sense, to be honest.
What was that?
I think the Berto fight makes the most sense. That's a Showtime main event.
So then who would you match Figueroa with? Granados? Sink or swim? Like the loser, it becomes irrelevant?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Because like you said, like Figueroa's like not been around. Like, what are you doing here, fam? Like, are you invested in this? Are you done being alcoholic drunk that's shot up 5 weight divisions? Okay, by the time you're 22 years old, like, what are you doing here? And Granados, like, is a guy that every time you've been given the opportunity, you drop the ball. Here's your last shot. And then the loser goes down to deep undercard spots.
Right. The loser becomes a gatekeeper, stepping stone.
Yeah, they become card openers, you know, and that's fine. But that's what they become.
The thing about Omar Figueroa is, we're both writing him off against everyone else. He's still undefeated. He's never lost. You know, so, but yeah, no, I was.
Should have lost that Ricky Burns fight.
What was that?
Should have lost that Ricky Burns fight.
He missed weight in that fight. He fought at 47 and missed weight, didn't he? Like, they were supposed to fight at 40. They signed for 47, and they came in at like 49.
No, I think they signed for 140 and he came in overweight. That's it. I don't think.
Okay, that was okay. Okay, I know he missed weight in that fight. That's not a good fight. And then he beat Burns. He beat DeMarco. I mean, and then he beat Guerrero. He destroyed Guerrero, and then he took another year and a half off, and then he looked like trash against John Molina. The ESPN card. What happened? Because I know, like go back a year ago, we were both pretty high on Dogbet.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to all of his skills? He looked like Arthur. He looked like a miniature Arthur Abraham in there. He just throwing looping punches, coming forward, no head movement. It's like, what happened to all the skills? Where was the jab? Where was the head movement? Like, where was all that skill we saw in his other fights?
Well, A, I don't think we really saw that much skill like you talk about in those other fights. B, he's been in, I think, quite a bit of wars early on. C, he's talked about and admitted that he took all of the fame to his head. And obviously, the final point, D, he's been training with his uncles as training partners. And God knows if he changed trainers, God knows if he changed anything. I think we just have a guy that has wasted talent, to be honest. Like, that's purely what it is.
And how old
Unfortunately.
was he? He was like 23. We're calling him wasted talent. He's still really young. Wasted. I don't know if he'll ever be the same, but
how old is he? I'm looking it up right now. He's 24.
he's young.
He's 24.
He's 24.
Like,
he's
so
young.
he has time to rebound.
He's Barrios.
He has plenty of time to rebound, but he needs to move out, move to a different country, different trainer completely. Change everything up.
I thought he did that. I think, isn't he from Ghana and now he lives in England? I guess move to, I don't know, go get up with who would you match it with? Like, what trainer would you look and say, go to this trainer?
Maybe like a John David Jackson. He's actually doing decent work nowadays.
Yeah.
Somebody that's still gonna sort of mold that aggression. Yeah, Buddy McGirt, but he's sort of like the go-to now because of what he did with Kovalev, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like he's the popular name right now. We need to get off him. I don't know. He needs somebody that will still. Basically, you don't want somebody that's going to change what he is because he is a come forward aggressive fighter. You want somebody to perfect that. So maybe even like a Robert Garcia, like somebody like that, maybe. Because what he's missing is the fundamentals. It's not that he's missing like athleticism, durability, power, willpower. He has all of that. He just doesn't have the fundamentals anymore, and maybe just not somebody drilling the fundamentals constantly, where he's sparring good guys with fundamentals constantly. I think that's probably the issue. It's like Robert Garcia, John David Jackson, somebody like that.
I thought, like, obviously he was never going to be Loma or Pernell Whitaker in there, right? But, like, I thought for a come-forward fighter, I thought he had pretty good skills before these last two fights. And that's why I was like, and this last fight, he looked like dog shit, right? Like, I thought he was a way more skillful fighter than what he showed yesterday. I just, like, he looked like a different fighter. He looked like trash, like, compared to what he looked like in Magdaleno, Diego Lawrence. Like, he had some decent wins coming up, building up. And then he just looked like completely amateurs against Navarrete. But we'll see. I mean, he's 23. He's got plenty of time to rebuild.
Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, I would pick, if I had to pick someone to beat Lomachenko, it would be Miguel Berchelt. Stylistically, he would just hound him. He would do what Salido did, but just a lot better job of it. He'd beat him up. He'd kill him with punch output. He'd stay on him and hound him and make him uncomfortable. I think if anyone, that's not a ringing endorsement, can beat Loma at or around this weight, it's Berchelt. I think Berchelt could pull that upset. Just stylistically, I think he's.
So you think? So you're sitting here telling me that you think Miguel Berchelt has a better chance of beat. Oh, let me finish. Has a better chance of beating Lomachenko than like Richard Comey.
Yeah, Comey's too flawed. I mean, you said.
Really?
I want to do this. Yeah, I want to do this. I think Berchelt beats Comey too. That's a great fight. That's a fun fight, but I think Berchelt beats Comey too. Berchelt is huge at 130, right? If he fought Lomachenko, Berchelt would be the bigger guy in the ring, even though he's the one coming up in weight.
That's not. I don't. That's not necessarily true. What are you talking about? Francisco Vargas was bigger than him, for God's sake, bro.
He was taller.
Miguel Berchelt is 5'7". Miguel Berchelt's 5'7". I'm gonna look up Lomachenko's height right now.
He's 5'7". But look at the build. Like, look at his legs. Like, Berchelt's a big, solid dude.
Lomachenko, 5'7". Reach 65 and a half inches. Let me see what Berchelt's reach is.
Yeah.
71
Lomachenko's
inches, so he has
shorter.
longer reach. That's good.
Yeah.
I think he's not bigger. Like, he's not significantly bigger at all. I don't know about that, man. Like, I don't think you're right at all in
I
that
think
assessment.
significantly, he's not going to be small. Like, he's not going to be smaller than Lomachenko, right? Like, he's a solid guy. He's built. So what I'm saying, my point was, he's not going to be giving up size to Lomachenko. He's not going to be at a size disadvantage against Loma. They're going to be closely the same size as anything. I think Berchelt's probably bigger. So it's not like
Lomachenko's last two opponents were bigger than him. Pedraza and Linares were bigger than him.
Yeah, no.
Like, actually bigger than him.
Yeah. Loma and Pedraza, not Pedraza. Who did he fight before Pedraza? Linares was way bigger than he was. He looked like a fish out of water in that fight. I'm not saying that Berchelt would win because he's bigger. I'm simply saying that Berchelt won't be at a size disadvantage.
Okay, I know
it's
that.
Not like he's going to be.
But I'm stating like that means very little, honestly. So
no, I think Berchelt's style is what makes more of a difference. His on-you, hounding you style is what makes this fight a bad fight for Lomachenko. Oh, and Lomachenko's great. Lomachenko might be able to figure it out and stay away from an outboxing and win round after round. That could happen, sure. But I'm saying, if I had to pick anyone at 130 or 135 to beat Loma, it would be Berchelt based on his style.
Yes or no, Gary? Yes or no? Does Berchelt have good lateral movement?
Good lateral, good subjective. It's not terrible. I mean, good is tough. I mean, that's not.
It is subjective, and that's why I'm asking you your opinion. And don't switch it up and say, oh, it's not bad. Is it good? Yes or no? However you define good.
Is it good?
Yes.
I would not say it's good.
Okay, that's all.
Now ask me if it's bad.
No, it's not bad. I don't think it's bad. No, I agree,
Okay.
but it's not good. It's completely mediocre. Do you think Berchelt has a variance in his offensive ability? Yes or no? So, like, for example, just to
No, I know what you're asking me.
Okay, but for those that maybe do not know what I'm talking about that are listening, Mikey Garcia is a perfect example of somebody that lacks variance in their offensive ability. Great offensive fighter, but still a limited offensive fighter. Vladimir Klitschko is another one.
Not at a world class level. Not against a guy. He would have to. No, I mean.
Okay. No, that's fine. We're just going through these questions, Gary. It's a questionnaire. Yes or no? Does Berchelt eat a lot of punches?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Not as much as other come forward fighters, but yeah, he eats a lot of shots.
Okay. Now let's reverse it. Lomachenko. Do you think his offense has variance to it?
Of course.
Do you think he has good lateral movement?
Yeah, I think his lateral movement is.
Does Lomachenko throw in volume and with accuracy?
Yes, he's a very precise puncher, and he has a good punch output. So yes, those are only. I'm not knocking Lomachenko, right?
No. Gary, I understand you're not knocking him, but I'm just pointing out to you in the simplest way I can how I sort of go through this fight and my personal checklist for this individual fight and how I think Lomachenko by far and away is the favorite if they were to fight. And to be honest, Berchelt, with those same criteria, struggles with Gervonta Davis and Tevin Farmer. Yeah, I said it.
But I think he beats both those guys. Yeah, I think he beats both those guys. I don't think Tevin Farmer has enough pop to keep him off of him.
That's probably true.
I think Tevin may win some rounds, but I think ultimately Berchelt breaks him down. Tank Davis is the interesting one. I'm just gonna, I'm still out on Tank Davis till he fights somebody his own size who's good. So I'm just gonna put Tank on a shelf until he fights someone at his own size.
Just to add the caveat that I know you mean, and maybe other people don't know, that's not Pedraza in 2016. It's 2019 now. We needed a little bit something of recent memory with Gervonta Davis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although, Pedraza one is great, but it's been like 2.5 years. And he hasn't won anyone of note since. I mean, that's like ancient history at this point.
Yep. And also, Gary, I want to add one more question to it. Berchelt's recent run of opponents. Let me go through them just so I have them out. There we go. Obviously, he beat Francisco Vargas. That's probably the big fight that of note. Like, he really didn't fight anyone before that of note. Then Takashi Miura. Then Maxwell Awoku. Jonathan Victor Barros. Miguel Roman. And then, obviously, the fight this weekend, Francisco Vargas. Is that enough for us to say that he can beat a guy like Lomachenko?
No, because he hasn't fought a guy who he's going to have to cut the ring off on, right? Like, all those guys are kind of come at you kind of guys.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he hasn't fought a mover at all. Yeah. And maybe that's smart matchmaking. I don't know. But maybe
it is.
He can't. But who gave Lomachenko fits? Salido. Why? Because he hounded him and stayed on top of him.
Yes, but Gary, you're bringing up that like it's relevant, but yet that is far longer ago than Gervonta Davis's win against Pedraza. I didn't bring that up like it's relevant, and neither did you.
Has Loma fought that kind of guy since Salido?
Well, let's look at Lomachenko's career really fast. Just so I have the entire resume to look at. And by guy like Salido, describe that. What are we looking at specifically?
Come forward, Mexican style, hound you, stay on you, punch output.
Okay.
Like a gnat, just who hounds you and stays on you.
I'll be honest. I wouldn't describe Berchelt as that, but digressing. Probably the closest would be 3 names come to mind, but it's not complete 1-to-1s. Walters, Sosa, and Pedraza, but those aren't 1-to-1 analogs to Salido. But I will say this: they're better fighters than Salido. And also, Gary, you have yet to really address the fact that you have a contradiction in your logic, because you act like the Salido loss, which was in 2014, is extremely relevant in Lomachenko's second pro fight, and yet Gervonta Davis's fight against Pedraza in 2016, 2 years later than this, is not relevant. And Pedraza is still seen to be, Pedraza is still a relevant player today. Salido's retired. Put that into context. Salido's retired. He's not even boxing anymore.
No, okay. I hear what you're saying, and I'm saying is that's the game plan. I think you would have to execute to have success against Loma, right? Like Rob's saying, Luke Campbell's going to outbox him. That's fucking ridiculous, right? Like you're going to outbox him. You need to do something. You need to slow him down. You need to make him uncomfortable, right? That's the only chance you're going to have to beat him. Or you're not going to sit there in the pocket and outbox him from mid-range to long range. You're not going to do that. You need to make him uncomfortable. You need to push him right.
But isn't that what Berchelt innately does? Isn't Berchelt innately a mid-range combination puncher? Like, he's not a guy that's really on the inside brawling you like a Jared Hurd. He's a mid-range guy. He likes having the jab. He likes to be able to be fully extended with that 1-2.
He's become more of a mid-range guy. Go back and watch the first fight with Vargas. It's a different fight. He beats him up on the inside.
Gary, that's also because Vargas is the one that applies the pressure. And let's be honest, Vargas applied the pressure in this fight. There was a lot of moments Vargas was coming forward. He just wasn't the guy being efficient at it. He wasn't being successful at it. Berchelt was still winning in those engagements. But Vargas was the one forcing the fight to be on the inside. Vargas was the one that has that come forward, that gnat approach to it, right? Like you said, like they're always on you. But Chelsea's the guy that wants to be in the mid-range, exchanging with you mid-combination.
He's fought like that more. You're right about that, right? And you're right. And which is good for him long term. But like, he's not going to box Lomachenko from the mid range. That's not going to work. So he's going to have to fight the way that he fought the first Vargas. He's going to have to hound him, right? If he can't, then he's going to lose. That's just that simple, right? Like, if he has to box Lomachenko from the mid range, he's going to lose. So is everyone else in the world, right? Like, it just is what it is. He has to make it. He has to make it a dog fight. He has to stay on top of him. He has to rough him up. He has to do that. Right? He has to execute the Salido game plan if he's going to have any chance. If anyone's going to have any chance, right? Like, Shane Mosley is a better fighter than Marcos Maidana, hands down. But Maidana did better against Mayweather because of the style, because he hounded on him, he could stay on him, and he could assault him, right? That's what you have to do to Loma, I think. We don't know that for sure because no one's come close to beating Loma in years now, in 4 years. I mean, Gary Russell won some rounds against Loma. And Linares won some rounds against Loma. But neither of those guys were really ever threatening to win that fight. I guess Linares dropped him. But did you ever think Linares was going to win that fight?
No.
No, me either. And same thing, Gary Russell probably won 4 rounds in that fight. Did you ever think Gary Russell was going to win that fight?
No, not really. Especially at that point in time, Gary Russell was kind of not necessarily an unknown talent, but he hadn't done anything in his pro career at that point, really.
That's what we haven't really seen a successful game plan where Loma really had to dig deep since the Salido fight. No one's really, I mean, everyone's had limited success against it, but no one's really forced his hand.
Well, I mean, he was knocked down in the Linares fight. I mean, that he did have to
he was knocked down. Yeah. Again, I'm not saying I definitely would pick Berchelt to win. I'm saying he has a very good chance of pulling that upset. And if I had to pick someone at 30 or 35 who could beat Loma, I'd put my eggs in the Berchelt basket.
But you also hate Loma. You've also gone on this show and said I hate Loma for no reason.
I don't like Loma. I am not a Loma fan.
So,
I will root for Luke Campbell. I will be the biggest Luke Campbell fan there is. But have I said anything unfair about Lomachenko? About his skill set, about his talent? Have I said anything unfair?
You thinking that? Well, I mean, you bring up the Salido fight. I think is unfair because you discount the Gervonta Davis Pedraza win. I'm just being honest. Like, that is a clear contradiction in logic. Also, I would say picking Berchelt right now to beat Lomachenko is innately unfair, but that's beside the point, Gary.
Okay.
Because I just think that Berchelt's not as good as I think a lot of people want to say he is. I think he's a very talented guy, but there's limitations to his game, and significant limitations.
I've had Berchelt in my pound-for-pound top 10 for well over a year now. So I'm not saying, like, I think Berchelt is excellent.
You have Berchelt in your top 10, really pound for pound.
I have right at number 10. I've had him there for over a year.
So what about... All right, hold on. Give me your top 10, Gary. I got time today. What's your top 10?
I got to review it because I got to take Hurd out now because Hurd lost.
Because Hurd lost. All right. You obviously obviously the names are in there that we probably agree on. Canelo, right?
Right.
Crawford,
right.
Lomachenko,
yeah.
Usyk,
yep.
Inoue,
yep.
And no specific order right now, guys, because I'm not going to do that. But just names that we can all agree on. Gennady Golovkin?
Not right now. Not
okay.
Somebody again. I don't like to put people coming. I would still put Mikey on the list because he jumped up 2 weight classes. But Gennady hasn't beaten anyone of note. I'm not being honest in a while. So I want him to get a win, and not against Steve Rolls, against a top 10 to 15 middleweight before I put him back on my list.
Okay. Earl Spence?
Earl Spence, yep.
Okay, so that's 6. Leo Santa Cruz.
I don't, but like he could be 10. Like if I went to 11, he'd probably.
Well, hold on. You're telling me. Hold on. You're telling me that you have Berchelt above Leo Santa Cruz in your top 10, pound for pound.
Is that crazy?
Yes, that's crazy. Like, I'll put it this way. Leo's not even in mine top 10 pound for pound. Neither is Berchelt, but Leo's not even in mine. So I'm shocked that you have Berchelt above him, because even if I had to pick like a top 20, I don't think Berchelt's in my top 20.
I don't see that. He stops and beats down everyone he fights. It's not like he's fighting tomato cans. He's got some good names on his resume.
You're talking about Berchelt?
Berchelt, yeah.
Yeah, no, he does have good names on his resume.
And he stops them all. I mean, what else do you want from him? He fights the best guys in his weight class, and he stops them. Not in your top 20? Would you put a guy like Prograis ahead of him?
No, probably not right now. But digressing from that, because that's not what we're talking about right now. Okay, so you don't have Leo in there. Kosei Tanaka, multiple division champion, unified champion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who else could slip in there? That's 7. Who we missed? Why do I feel like we're missing people?
I would put Estrada on my list now too.
Estrada can definitely slip in there.
I would say he's 9.
Mikey still deserves to be in the top 10 for you?
I put Mikey in the top 10. He fought a guy 2 weight classes bigger than him. I dropped him. I had him like 5. I would drop him down to like 8, but I'd still put him in the top 10.
Kovalev?
No, I don't put Kovalev back. That was one good performance. I don't put him back in the top 10 yet.
All right. You know what? I'm not going to argue too much. I can see you slipping in. Because especially since like we've had significant people lose recently, like Serkat Sorungsvi lost. So he could probably drop out of the top 10, right?
Right. I took Lufkin out of my top 10. I had Hurd at number 9, and he lost. I would take
Hurd lost. Mikey lost. I mean, there's some significant names that have been talked about for pound that have lost recently. I probably have to review the top 10. You probably have some new names to slip in there. All right, Gary. I'm not going to push on it too hard. I'll give you that one.
Oh, and I also want to comment on this. I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but during the telecast, when Hurd got knocked down in the second round, Chris Myers said this. This is the first knockdown of Hurd's career, which shows how good he is defensively. Did you hear that?
I'll be honest, because I was doing the live fight chat, right? So I don't have the commentary on. Did he really say that?
He really said that. It's obvious he's never watched him fight before. Like, that's obvious. If you're going to say Jarrett Hurd is that good defensively, that's why he's never been knocked down before. It's like, boy. Yeah, watching Hurt's like watching the second.
And also, it's just like
you just can't hit him.
It's not the right time to apply the fighter's defense when they get knocked down. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not the moment. Wow, Chris Myers is so bad.
Hey,
I'll be honest, guys. Hey, look, I shit a lot on the DAZN telecast because they deserve to be shitted on. But God, Chris Myers alone brings down the PBC Fox telecast like nothing else. God. I can deal with Lennox, and I think Goossen's fine. I think Goossen's actually pretty decent, to be honest. But Chris Myers drops the entire telecast down exponentially.
He just doesn't know anything about boxing. Like,
he doesn't know anything.
I don't know why you'd hire someone that doesn't know anything about boxing to be your boxing guy. That makes zero sense to me.
And
they have Gus Johnson at Fox. Put Gus Johnson in that chair. I love Gus Johnson.
And I forget what's his name that does the DAZN stuff with Sergio now. God, what's his name? I don't like him as a person. But I think what he does as a color guy is pretty decent, just in terms of
Chris Mannix.
Not Chris Mannix. No, not Chris Mannix. Fuck. On the commentary team, he's always with Sergio now.
Brian Kenny?
Not Brian Kenny. Brian Kenny's for the big shows. Think about the smaller shows. Because Brian Kenny, I really have no issues with. I'll be honest.
Now I'm trying to know who you don't like as a person. Like, I'm talking about Eddie Hearn stuff. I don't like him as a person.
God, what's his fucking name? That's gonna bug me, guys. I deeply apologize. I'm gonna try to find it. But anyways, Chris Myers is the worst guy in the entire bunch. Like you can line up every single color commentator, every single play-by-play guy, and Chris Myers is the worst of the entire bunch. Thank you, Jay, in the chat. Todd Grisham. Yeah, I think Todd Grisham's an annoying person.
Okay.
I think he's a very annoying person in real life. But digressing from that, he does his job pretty well. Like he has a good voice. He seems like he cares. You know, he's a good color guy. Chris Myers, on top of seemingly being utterly confused about what's happening around him, looks entirely disinterested all the time. So not only does he have no idea what he's talking about, but he doesn't care about what he's talking about. So like when Todd Grisham knows jack shit about what he's talking about, he at least seems like he's passionate. You know, he's saying something completely wrong, but he cares a lot about it, or at least he fakes it, as a good color guy does. And Chris Myers just doesn't in any way. Same with Brian Kenny. Like, Brian Kenny could say some stupid shit, but he doesn't sound like he's disinterested at all. And that's a big factor to me. Like, you need to seem like you care about what you're watching. Otherwise, why should I care as a viewer, as a consumer of it?
I just don't get why they would use him, right? Like, no one associates Chris Myers with boxing ever. He doesn't know anything about boxing.
Cheap.
You put all this money into boxing. Why are you using it? It's not associated with boxing. He doesn't know anything about boxing. That confuses me. Like, you know, like remember what was the baseball, the ESPN baseball guys? Tim Kirkson. There's ESPN baseball tonight for years, right? Like he's associated with baseball.
Yeah.
Like what if ESPN says we're going to put you on basketball? Like, why would you do that? Like I'm the baseball guy. Like put Chris Myers on boxing makes 0 sense. Especially when Gus Johnson, who's way better than him, right? Like, does Gus Johnson ever seem disinterested? No, he seems like every fight is the most exciting fight he's ever seen in his life. And people like him more, and he doesn't suck. And he knows boxing. So why don't you put Gus Johnson on the show? He already works for your network.
Because he probably costs more. I mean,
what was that?
He probably costs more.
You think Gus Johnson costs more than Chris Myers? Maybe.
I don't know, but I mean, let's be honest. Everyone likes Gus Johnson. Like nobody has an issue with him. And like I said, he's
right.
fantastic at his job. Chris Myers may have been here longer. Like his career's probably a little bit longer, technically speaking, but nobody likes Chris Myers. Like, what's he known for? Like, think about what's he known for?
I don't know. He was one of the original Sports Center anchors, like from the '80s and stuff.
God, how the hell did Sports Center catch on if he was one of the original guys? How did that show and the entire network not crash and burn because of him? Oh my God.
I don't know. It was him. It was Chris Berman, who I can't stand either, but I guess people like Chris Berman.
But here's the thing. Gary, Chris Berman never seems like he's disinterested about anything that he's talking about.
Absolutely.
And that's the
Chris
difference.
Berman to be a very annoying version of Gus Johnson. Like he's constantly excited. I just don't think he says anything that's really accurate. Like I think Gus Johnson's usually on point. I think Chris Berman's excited, but just ultimately annoying and wrong. But yeah, those were two of the originals. Keith Olbermann, I think, was one of the originals.
Mm-hmm.
I know people like him. Linda Cohn wasn't one of the originals, but she wasn't. You know, maybe the next year she joined, and everyone likes Linda Cohn. Linda Cohn was like my second mom as a kid. Like her voice was, because she's still on ESPN, right?
I think so.
Yeah, her voice is just a staple. Like it's like my childhood. Like 'cause she used to, like Bob Lee would be like the morning Sports Center. She raised me more than my own mom did. I love Linda Cohn. Yeah, that was. I don't know how we got on that.
Talking about Chris Myers sucking and how he thought Hurd had great defense.
It's one of the dumbest comments you could ever make. It would be like saying Shaq is an excellent free throw shooter or 3-point shooter. It's like
No, it'd be like this. It'd be like this, Gary. Let's say that Shaq misses the first free throw of the game, and he's made a couple before that, and be like, hey, man, it's the first one he missed the game, man. That really shows you how well he's changed his free throw game up, right, guys? And like, are you fucking kidding me? He's made 2 of 3 right now. Wait till he makes another. Wait till he misses another 10.
Yeah, it was just I didn't know if anyone else picked up on that. I heard that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. They got to get someone who knows boxing on the show here. Then I want to talk about Thurman and Pacquiao real quick too. Who are you picking? You're taking Thurman to win that fight?
Yeah, I'm picking Thurman, preliminary pick. But I have some hesitation about it, obviously.
Okay. I'm leaning that the fight's going to get canceled, but if it does go through, I'm leaning towards Pacquiao. I don't know why. Maybe it's just my bias coming in because I you know how I feel about Keith Thurman. I just think Pacquiao looked better against Broner than Thurman did against Lopez. So I'm going to go with Pacquiao. You don't think that's crazy, right? It's not crazy to pick Pacquiao?
No, not at all. No. Pacquiao's shown that he still has some gas left in the tank, for sure. Especially at the elite level, he still has gas left for that level of opponents.
All right. If Keith Thurman loses, he's obviously going to get paid. Do you think he's done with boxing?
If Keith Thurman loses, yeah, he's done with boxing.
Yeah,
he's done with boxing, for sure.
I think so, too. So do you think he's motivated? Like, do you think this is a cash-out fight for him, or do you think he's going in there 100%, I want to win this fight, and then I want to fight Spence next, or Porter, whoever wins?
I think Thurman will, if he beats, I think either one, I think they will fight the winner of Spence Porter. I don't think we get a tune-up in between fight at all.
But do you think Thurman's taking this as a cash-out fight? Do you think he's taking this fight?
No.
Okay. So do you think Thurman has plans to beyond this fight? Thurman's going into this fight, to win.
Well, think about it. The one name he's constantly been talking about more than anyone has been Spence. It's not been Pacquiao. Pacquiao won the Broner fight, and it did good numbers, so everyone talked about it because everyone wanted that fight. But Thurman has talked about Spence. He's mentioned Spence's name more than anyone else in his comeback.
Thurman's not fighting Spence. Not anytime soon. I don't think he'll ever fight Spence. He quit
Yo,
for 2 years now.
come on. Mikey Garcia was able to walk down Spence and make Spence have to be a counter boxer. Okay, like Spence, he's beatable. He is. He's a very talented opponent, pound for pound level. He got all the momentum that Thurman had, but Thurman can still beat him. I'm not going to say easily, but he could. You could pick Thurman, and I'm not going to laugh at you or think that that's ridiculous. Not you specifically, because I know you're not picking Thurman, but anyone out there.
After the Garcia fight, immediately after the Garcia fight, you were actually the day after Keith Thurman beat Danny Garcia, and then Spence beat. I guess that was like a month later, right? So after Thurman beat Garcia and Spence beat Kell Brook, you would have actually who I think would win between Thurman. So like 2.5 years ago, you actually I think would have won that fight. I would have picked Thurman. He's too mobile. I think Spence is better, more apt. I think he moves better. I think he boxes better than I thought. And I think taking 2 years off for Keith Thurman and fighting twice in 3 years did little to help him. It was not a great move long term. So I think Thurman fought as good as he was, and I think Spence is even better than I thought he was. So you're picking Spence to beat Crawford, but you wouldn't pick him to beat Thurman?
I didn't say that.
Or you might not pick? Okay.
I didn't say that. But I'm saying that I'd probably pick Spence to beat Thurman, obviously, but I still think Thurman has an absolute chance to beat him.
How does he explain the game plan? How do he beat Spence? On his bike? He gets on his bike?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen that Thurman before. And plus, Thurman's one of those guys that he can change up his style mid-fight. You know, if there's moments where he needs to be aggressive, he can. You know, we could see, not in a similar way, obviously, but like, you know how like J-Rock was able to like go in and out of game plans in fight modes against Hurd and really confuse him. Thurman can do that too. We've seen him do it before. at a lower pace level against Danny Garcia. So yeah, I think Thurman has a path to victory, absolutely. But I'm not picking him to win, but I still think he can win.
Okay. I think Spence is a much, much better boxer than we anticipated. I think if he did go backwards, he would do okay against Thurman. And I think he beats Thurman up on the inside. I think Spence wins clearly now. But if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I probably would have leaned towards Keith Thurman to win the fight. Right, and that's me saying that. That's me not being biased. Now I think Spence beats him. I'm picking Pacquiao to beat him too, because he. Oh, I still don't think this. Does either one of these guys ever fight twice a year? When was the last time either one of Pacquiao or Thurman fought twice in the same calendar year?
Where they both did it?
Either one of them.
Have to be like 2013. It would have to be like 2013, 2012.
Okay, and when was the last time Thurman fought twice in a year? 2014? So I can't see both guys coming back in just 6 months. But maybe I'm wrong. I just can't see it.
Okay. Well, they already are.
Because Keith Thurman's never canceled or postponed a fight before. That's actually never happened.
It happens all the time in the sport. But you just said I can't see them fighting twice in 6 months. Well, they are right now.
Okay, but the fight hasn't happened yet. I will believe it. I said I will believe Keith Thurman's coming back to the ring.
Gary, you got to pick your hater line on Keith Thurman. Is it a cash out? Is he going to lose, or is Thurman scared of fighting and he doesn't want to fight Pacquiao and is going to fake an injury? It can't be both.
Well,
it fundamentally can't be both because he has to fight Pacquiao to have the cash out.
I put it on Pacquiao. Pacquiao doesn't fight twice in a year either. So that's equal parts on both guys. So whatever. I could be wrong. I hope the fight happens in July because I think Pacquiao will win and Thurman will lose. So I hope the fight happens. I'm rooting for that fight to happen in July. I'm just saying, I'm not convinced it is because these guys don't typically like. If it was Gary Russell Jr. and I like Gary Russell Jr. If Gary Russell Jr. say he's fighting on the Wilder undercard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm going to fight again in October, November. And he signed to fight in October and November. You wouldn't be a little weary of that fight? Maybe that's not going to happen. This guy doesn't fight twice in a year.
No, I wouldn't be too worried about it, to be honest.
Okay. All right. And then there was something. Was there any other topic? I feel like I missed something.
Because Gary, I just want to point out that it may not be twice in a calendar year, but like the Matisse fight was in late July, the Broner fight was in January. That's only 6 months apart, roughly.
Okay, yeah, you're right about that. He only fought once in 2018.
He took a year off from Horn, and obviously he was dealing with promotional issues and got rid of Bob Arum in that process. Took it was a 6 month gap. It was a 7th month gap between the Vargas and Horn fight. Even though it was in the same calendar year, 7th month gap. He did fight twice in 2016 against Timothy Bradley and Jesse Vargas. And he fought.
So maybe I'm giving Pacquiao. Yeah. Maybe I'm being a little hard on Pacquiao. Maybe he does fight a little more regularly than I was giving him credit for.
And Thurman just has that long layoff, honestly. And the weird.
He's only fought once a year for.
No. He fought once a year. Let me finish. He fought once a year with Danny Garcia and Sean Porter, right? And he had that injury in between. So that sort of explains it. But other than that, he's fought 2 or 3 times a year everywhere else.
Well, we're going back. So he from the Collazo fight on, right? When was the Collazo fight?
But Gary, from the Collazo fight on, he only had 2 more fights, and then he had the layoff.
Yeah,
so you're basing his entire career off of 2 fights.
Well, I'm trying to find out when the Collazo fight was. What, 2014, 2015? When was that fight?
It was January 2015.
January 2015. Okay, so it was 4.5 years ago.
Mhm.
And then he fought. He didn't fight again until Sean Porter was his next fight.
Yep, in
or
June.
Was Guerrero in there somewhere?
No.
Okay.
Guerrero's before that, bro. Guerrero's before that. That was the same year as Collazo. That was the
Okay.
same year as Collazo. Okay. He fought. Hold on. Let me just say this. He fought Zvik, Diego Chavez, Carras, all in 2013. He fought Julio Diaz, Leonard Bundu, 2014. Robert Guerrero, Luis Collazo, 2015. Sean Porter, 2016. Danny Garcia, 2017. We know he had injuries in that time span. And then he has the long layoff, and then Josito Lopez. That's it.
Alleged injuries.
Gary,
Alleged.
I've seen him.
Yeah.
I was there when he was recovering from injury, bro. Don't say alleged. You sound like an idiot. You do.
How do I sound like an idiot?
Because I have seen the stitches. You don't understand that. I myself was in person with Keith Thurman after his elbow surgery.
What was the injury he had before the Porter fight? Because there was two injuries.
I forget about that. I don't know. I forget. But again,
yes.
What are you basing off of? Ken Porter? Really?
We all said Ken Porter was nut when he said that the car accident that Thurman had was.
So then, what are you basing off, Gary?
Right?
What are you basing off of?
Okay,
you've been on the phone for 30 minutes. What are you talking about here?
This is not from me. This is from the American Association of Orthopedic Surgeons, the AAOS. Okay, the surgery that he had.
Gary, stop. Gary, stop. You are switching the argument, and you do this constantly, Gary. Gary, let me fucking talk. It's my show.
Okay.
You're switching the argument.
Yeah.
You are. You said alleged injuries. Now you're switching to, oh, well, he took a long layoff, but his injuries should have only been this amount of time. What is it, Gary? Were the injuries fake? Were they a conspiracy? Or did he just take more time off? Because that's entirely different. That's entirely different. And you know it.
Can I answer that question?
Sure, go ahead.
I know it's your show, but I'd like to answer that. Okay, great. All right. So, yes, does anyone deny that he had elbow surgery? No.
You did.
No one denies that. No one that I know. I'm not making that claim.
You just did,
what
though.
I'm saying is, if you have, no, I didn't.
Gary, in context, you know what? No, Gary, I can speak. When you say alleged injury, Gary, don't talk over me, please, because then I'm just going to mute you, and we're going to do this again. Gary, when you say alleged injuries, that is a direct implication that the injuries are not real. That's not implying, oh, he took more time off than what the injury is allotted for. That is a direct implication that the injuries are fake. That is what you're doing, Gary. Don't hide behind that, please. Stick to your guns. Stick to your Thurman hate. Back to you.
If you let me get through the whole sentence without cutting me off, I'll explain to you what I meant by fake injury. I will get there, because he had two injuries. He had a hand bruise. The hand bruise came 6 weeks out of his fight when he had no name, no tickets until the Barclays Center. And then all of a sudden he got a hand bruise, which takes a month to 2 months to recover from, and then he was out of the ring for another year. That's the fake injury. The hand injury that he got back in February of 2018.
We're moving on, Gary. We're moving on, Gary. That's fucking crazy talk. Because you just flip-flop right there again, Gary. You just said, I'm not saying it's a fake injury. Oh, but this injury is fake. I can't deal with the double standards, man. I can't. That's some stupid shit right there. Moving on. Heading out of here. Been on for a lot. 2 hours. Half of it's Gary's ramblings. Talking about Berchelt beating Lomachenko, yet every single category of fighting, he ranks Lomachenko better than. He says Thurman's injuries were fake. Then when pressed on it, he says they're not fake. Then when allowed to explain his point, says they are fake. Pick your fucking side, Gary. It's not that hard. Everyone have a great day. Find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms. Hit the like button, share the show, subscribe. Have a great day. Go to patreon.com/Mixed Comment Radio. Peace.
Stay off the weed.
That's stupid.
Use your common sense.
Are you off your tits? Have you been smoking something?
You piece of shit! I'm gonna fucking kill you! I'm gonna kill you! I'm gonna kill you!
Hey, pussy, are you still there?